Welcome to Feeling Asian, a podcast where two Asians talk about their feelings. I'm Youngmi Mayer.
And I'm Brian Park.
And today we have I'm going to say exceptional, but all of our guests are exceptional. So we have an exceptional guest for you, as always. But before we get to our guests, we're going to do our Patreon shout-outs.
Yes. So for our listeners, if you like the podcast, please consider supporting us on Patreon at patreon.com/feelingasian. Youngmi and I offer some awesome subscription tiers with awesome benefits, but any donation amount gets you a shout out on the podcast where we guess who you are based on your name alone. Youngmi, are you tapped into your psychic abilities now?
I am. I just had a tuna salad. I feel like that's important for me to say. I'm ready,
All
Brian.
All right, I'm tapped into. So our first shout out for this episode, this is a special one. This person he messaged us asking when he would be shouted out. So he's eager. But, and I had to confirm with him, the only name he provided for us, and it's not a mistake, is just Jim.
Jim? Why would that be a mistake?
Well, no, because I'm like, I guess I'm roasting Jim now. But
I thought you were going to be like, this name must be a mistake. It's Dookie Diapers or something. Jim is like such a regular name. Like, what?
This is so basic of me, but it makes me think of The Office, Jim from the Jim Halpert. And there was an episode where Randall Park was Asian Jim. Honestly, this is my guess, okay? The reason why I asked if it was a mistake and I had to confirm with Jim, are you sure you don't want to provide a last name, is because it's such a normal name, Jim.
Yeah.
And this is probably our Patreon supporter who is the most eager about getting his name shouted out. And his name is just Jim.
Right.
So it makes me think that Jim is really fucking chaotic in real life and like does not do he goes above and beyond what you would guess someone the name Jim would be like. That's my guess.
Chaotic in what way? Like you think he's just like hitting the streets hard, you know? Doing crime.
The streets hard.
Yeah.
Respectfully looking.
Jim is a choice because it's James, right? And if your name is James, you have a lot of options. You can go with Jimmy, which is sort of creepy because you're like I don't know, like you're trying to look like a nice guy, but Jim is like somebody that's like really solid in who they are. So I'm like seeing not Randall Park, just like Randall Park-esque like dad vibe guy in my head.
Yeah,
you know,
I think that's so spot on. He's really content and confident in himself.
Yes,
because I'm the one who asked him. I said, oh, is this the name you want? He said, yeah, Jim. My shout out name is Jim.
He's so confident that if somebody says Jim, he automatically knows that we're talking about him. Out of all the millions of Jims in the world, that's
Jim
me.
Is the alpha Jim.
I am the Jim.
Well, thank you for your donation, Jim. Our second shout out goes out to Tam Kai.
I'm getting some hot ass vibes from Tam Kai. I'm going to tell you right now. I saw some I just got the hottest wave of hot energy. I don't even know.
You look flustered now, Youngmi.
I'm upset. I saw somebody that was very hot yesterday, and I feel like that was Tam Kai.
That was Tam Kai.
I'm assuming this person is like Southeast Asian. I saw the hottest Southeast Asian person yesterday, and I'm just gonna fantasize that that's Tam Kai.
God, I wanted a name like Tam Kai. Can I just steal your name, Tam Kai?
Yeah, I'm going by Tam Kai.
I mean, Tam Kai is
tattoos.
That is a A+ name. It's a done deal. The moment anyone asks you at the bar, like, "Hey, what's your name?" "Hey, I'm Tam." It's done. Done.
Panties are off. I took my panties off at the bar. Inappropriate. I'm seeing tattoos. I'm seeing nice skin, like that. You know, like that nice like tan.
Yeah.
You know the vibes.
So jealous.
The smell, the sun-kissed smell.
You are the main character, and you are playing this game with a cheat code. and it's unfair.
I've decided that the hot person that I saw yesterday is you. So if it was you, DM me.
Slide
please.
into Youngmi's DMs.
I was the one that was just smiling in your direction all night long.
Oh wow. Are you ready for our last shout out, Youngmi?
Yeah.
This is the name of our last shout out. It is Unagi Papi.
No. See, this is the one where I would have been like, are you sure that's your name? I like how someone's like Jim and Brian's like, is that a real name? Unagi Papi. Yeah, that's a real name for sure.
That's normal.
Unagi Papi. P-A-P-I?
P-A-P-I. Unagi Papi.
This person sounds like a chef person, just judging by the nickname they gave themselves. I hope to God that's not a real legal name.
My guess is it's a nickname of the sorts. Unagi Papi has Unagi Papi tattooed on their thigh. Stick and poke tattoo.
Unagi Papi sounds like a name of like a food truck in LA. So maybe they're using their business name?
Unagi Papi is a food truck in LA. That is spot on.
Like it? Right?
Oh my God, yes.
And it's probably the person that owns it.
Yeah, so
I'm seeing a
Unagi
jovial
Papi,
person.
listeners, it's great. They use biodiesel fuel. I'm gonna guess that Unagi Papi is posted up on Olympic and La Cienega.
Somewhere in Silver Lake.
Great food.
Yeah. I see this person as being very jovial and like energetic. Like that's the vibe I get.
Good vibes. I'm getting good vibes from Unagi Papi.
Yeah, like a big laugh.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, friend that you go camping with and they just take the most acid. But then like they're the ones that like help everybody else when everyone else is like freaking out. They're like, get it together, Jim. As a slapping, just 100%. Pouring water on.
100%.
Never loses their shit on. Yeah.
Unagi Papi is making sure when everyone's tripping or passed out. Unagi Papi is making sure that all the beer cans are hung up on the tree. They'll be the first one up, set up the fire. They're making oatmeal for the rest of the crew.
They're bringing bottles of water next to you while you sleep. That's the vibe.
We stand. This was a good group. This was a good group.
I agree.
Thank you for donating to the podcast, everyone. And once again, if you like the podcast, please support us on Patreon at patreon.com/feelingasian. And Youngmi, now that we have our Patreon shout-outs out of the way,
Woo.
I think it's time to introduce our wonderful guest this week.
I'm freaking out. Ryan knows that I've been so excited. Not that, no shade to any other guests, but I have been so excited. I'm really bad at emails and shit, but this week I've been like, Brian, I've sent 90 million emails to Brian. I'm so prepared and I'm so excited, Brian.
This is shade to all of our previous guests. This is truly the most organized I have ever seen Youngmi. She sent me 5 calendar invites.
I'm not hungover today, shockingly. I really prepared.
Well, anyways, I feel like we've teased our listeners long enough. Everyone, you are in for a treat. Our wonderful guest this week is an incredibly talented actor, comedian, podcaster. You may have seen him on Saturday Night Live. Please give your ears to Bowen Yang.
Hi, and this is shade to people like, Michelle Zauner and Sola El-Wali and so many people. I am better than them because I make Youngmi organized. Wow. What an honor.
Screaming. Also, I just recently got an Adderall prescription, so that might have something to do with it. Thank you.
How are you on it? Do you mind sharing?
No, not at all. I think I talked about it a little bit 2 weeks ago, but it was like night and day. It was a little rocky in the beginning because I was not sure what was going on. I was like, why have I been sitting for 3 hours doing work? That's weird. Do you know what I mean?
But it is weird to sit for 3 hours and do work. That is not normal. And Adderall is Adderall is supposed to get you to a place where you can sit for 3 hours and work when it's are humans even supposed to do that?
Right?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
I should be chaotically sexting somebody I just met last night.
We all should.
That's like, yeah, that's normal for me.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're obviously so excited to have you, but before we ask you how you're feeling, Bowen, I want to ask Brian. Brian, how are you feeling?
I hate to say this, but I'm feeling a little bit sad. Yeah, over this past week, I encountered a couple, not encountered, but had to deal with a couple family-related health issues. I don't want to go too much into detail, but yeah, it's just made me really sad. So, I'm going to visit family in a month, and one of them is Alzheimer's related, and I had a phone conversation with them, and I could tell that they're there, but their mental capacities have diminished significantly, and it just made me think about, the memories that we've had together, and it's just, it made me really, really sad. And another layer to this is that I am the youngest in my entire family of my generation. Like, all of my cousins are in their mid to late 40s. My parents had me when they were my parents had me when they were old, and it made me think about how, is this just going to be the beginning of what's going to transpire for the next 30 to 40 years for me, of just having to encounter the same heartache of seeing my family members get ill. That's really dark and really sad, but it's just at the forefront of my mind right now. And it's just a reminder to make more of an effort to say I love you and call my relatives when I can. That's just kind of what's been going on with me.
I'm so sorry, Brian.
Oh,
that's really sad.
But I didn't mean to bring the vibe down so
that's
much.
The question. Well, Alzheimer's is like among like the cruelest diseases afflictions, because it's something that is just, it's like the most aggressive kind of dementia, and so therefore the fact that you can feel like memories slipping through your grasp on them is just like so so immediately sad, and it's so awful.
Yeah.
Wait, so she didn't? Did you say that she didn't recognize you?
Well, it's just there's parts in the conversation where it's like, oh, I'm kind of confused, or like, who is this again? Like, who are you again? And I'm just like, this breaks my heart so fucking much. And like you said, Bowen, it's just it's a very cruel disease. And I feel like I'm just entering this new period in my life where I'm gonna have to get used to this feeling, especially as the youngest person of my generation in my family.
Yeah, I mean, I just saw my family last week, and I'm sorry to center myself, but I just saw my family last week, and back in my mind I was like, well, at one point my parents were like, we're thinking of doing this trip, next year, and you should come with us. And I was like, well, I don't know anymore, and now I'm at a point in my life, like, I think we're like, my sister and I are at a point in our lives where it's just logistically a little tough to like line up schedules. Right. My sister was like, but also like, I think mom and dad are realizing, she just so cavalierly said this, but it was fine. But she was like, mom and dad are at an age now where they want to just see what they can see before things like start to sunset. And I was just like, oh God. And then that kind of threw me into like a whole like throttled crisis of the mind, where I was like, right, like we got to start thinking about taking care of them down the line. And it's just a very sobering thing. Yeah.
Brian, I just want to say that I am really, I admire the fact that you like so openly discuss that, because I feel like that's very that hasn't always been the case. Obviously we have this podcast called Feeling Asian, and I just like admire the fact that you said that so openly, because I know it's really hard for you to talk about stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's just in the forefront of my mind, but, you know, thanks for listening. It feels, you know, it does make me feel better knowing that I don't experience or feel these things alone, and that I have people like you to lean on. But in any case, young me, how are you feeling?
I am also feeling not great. This is welcome to our podcast, Bowen. I hope you're having fun.
Yes,
the fun.
This is the best.
So I had this recent thing that's also big on my mind, and it's like really sort of ruining hot girl summer. Not that, you know, I was like fully being like, okay, I'm gonna have fucking hot girl summer. I'm hitting the streets hard, and harder than usual even. And then I got into like these multiple, not even relationships, but like first date, second date scenarios with 3 people in a row that I had this huge issue with. And now I'm like stepping back and like taking note of what's happening. So what happened with 3 people in a row, like in a first date scenario, what happened was I was going on a date with them, and then right off the bat, they would be saying something extremely inappropriate sexually, right, about their sex lives. Like there was this one person where he literally like on a first date went into like graphic detail about a blowjob that he had received the night before, and then this other person was just like talking to me about like everybody that he's fucking. And then this like third most recent incident, this is like first date, right? This third person had this conversation with me where he said, my last 2 girlfriends broke up with me because I have like such a high body count. Like I fucked so many fucking people, and they were insecure about that. God. And I was like, oh, and he was like, you know, they kept asking me, and I tried to like keep the number from them because I wanted to be gentle with them and sweet, but like I told them, and
it's
then they got
too
fucking
high, bro.
It's too high. I got just destroying the puss left and right. And so I was like looking at him, and I was like, okay, so, and then he said, well, I'm glad that I can talk to you because you're just like a slut like me, and I can say things like that to you openly. And I was like, okay, first of all, like so my whole theory is that the reason why this keeps happening to me is that I have a very like active social media account, and in my social media account, I have this like comedic persona of being kind of like a slut, which is like, I feel like for a comedian, it's always like in the middle of being a performer and it being real, right? Like it's somewhere in the middle.
Right.
Like, is it all real? Yeah, no. Is it a like totally a persona? Like some of it's like, I wouldn't say made up, but it's like a distillation of like ideas that are going on in my head that are like kind of cuckoo, you know? And so,
oh yeah,
even like the third guy, I was like, I was like, dude, you have like no idea who I am. Like you just based this on my fucking Instagram. And
right,
and then
your tweets.
And my tweets, my chaotic tweets, which
right.
I'm proud of. But like, and then I was like, oh, and then like it made me think 2 things. It made me think, like when he said that about his ex-girlfriends and being open about talking about it in front of me, quote unquote, a slut, I was like, oh, that's like so like sort of misogynistic that you already are categorizing me in a different place. Even if I was a slut, quote unquote, a slut, if my public persona is real, I'm still a human being with emotions.
Yeah.
And I deserve the same gentle, because he's called it gentleness, right? Gentleness and care that like a woman that doesn't have as much sex does. Do you know what I mean? And I perceived it as like, oh, he's like putting me in a different place in his head because he thinks I'm a slut. And then that was like the first thought I had, and I felt that way about all the people that this has happened to recently. And then I was talking to my friend who's a stand-up comedian who is also a woman of color, and she also has like similar material, and she said that it kept happening to her. And then she was talking about how these are like all white guys, unfortunately. I'm sorry, I'm letting the fans down. But she was like, well, another level is like, you know, there is like that statistic where Asian women and women of color, like white men, have sex with us. and are interested in us, you know, like that very famous, what is it, Match.com statistic, the OkCupid statistic, that Asian women are the most popular. But then statistically, they end up only marrying white women. And so she was like, yeah, and don't you think it's like fucked up? And then I was like, yeah, and it's racist. And that, like, I was all getting like that in my head. Now, he's a misogynist and a racist. And then I was like getting myself going. But so those are all the thoughts that I had about it. But then at the end of the day, I'm feeling extremely like sort of like used and vulnerable and like sad. And I'm kind of like, hot girl summer is canceled in my head. You know what I mean?
No, don't let three white guys who have no social skills ruin that for you. Ruin the whole season for you. I understand. I completely understand this frustration because there's a different, it's not quite as bad as, there's a different version of this in the gay world among gay men, but it's not quite as bad as what you're going through, Young Mi, because there is that, you know, layer of misogyny to it, which is a nightmare. But don't let these fucking guys. I mean, it just happens that it just so happens that there were 3 first dates in quick succession where they made you feel they were trying to. I mean, God, to brag about how much sex you have is the least sexy thing. It's like it makes you the least fuckable person in the world. To talk to think in terms of a body count anyway. I was thinking like the other day, I was like, I don't even know how many people I've had sex with, and I don't care how big or small that number is. Anyway,
Me neither.
I'm not saying like that I'm a sex god or anything, or I'm saying, or like, it's just oh God, like other people projecting their like truly lizard brain tendencies to you is so not worth you trying. I'm not saying this is a choice that you have to make. I'm saying like, I'm saying it's bullshit that like, I'm just saying I'm sorry that they are making you feel this way, that Hot Girl Summer is canceled for you.
Yeah, I feel like this is a phenomena that has become more prevalent as of late.
Yeah.
Because the notion of celebrity it's trickled down into where everyone is a celebrity of some sort to someone, if you wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many avenues. There's so much content available. And with that comes it develops a power dynamic that's imbalanced where people can consume this content and then craft a specific idea of you that only is comfortable for the consumer, where it's like, oh, Young Mi is this chaotic, really sex positive person. You know what? I think we'd really get along because I'm kind of like I'm a slutty dude, and she's totally going to be down with that. And she tweets like that.
Yeah.
You know what? That's who she is. And I really want to date her for that reason. But it completely disregards that you are a human who has feelings and emotions and is worthy of respect. But instead, I think that comes with the territory of being this quote unquote public person where people are going to like project their fantasies or this idealized version of you, like of their fantasies onto you, you know?
Nobody wants to hear about a blowjob in graphic detail. I'm sorry.
At like a tapas
I am
bar
a slut.
or whatever.
Yeah. While I'm trying to pick up the last olive with your toothpick like a loser. What? Okay.
Talking about a blowjob while you're like sucking the brine off of an olive. Ugh.
Yeah, it's just which, and again, it's like, I know it's weird. I can't imagine having to date somebody that talks about things openly like that. Do you know what I mean? So
yeah,
I kind of understand where they're coming from, but it's like, but then I'm hooking up with someone casually, and I was like, oh, did you see this like meme that I posted? And he was like, dude, I never look at your social media because it like kind of messes with me. And I'm like,
amazing.
We like have sex like once a month, but he like could draw a clean boundary. So there are
healthy.
Yeah, there are healthy people out there to give you hope. How about you, Bowen? How are you? Oh, sorry.
Oh, I was just gonna add. There are some there's some sex workers who I talk to and who have like OnlyFans in a particular case or they're like they're big on OnlyFans. And what I notice is that they enshrine that persona specifically for like that part of their, like they compartmentalize in a very clear way for themselves as a way of protecting themselves. So that like, you know, in public, in the wild, when you're with them, with other people in like what would be a desexualized setting, they don't necessarily feel comfortable talking about it. And that is something that it's like, and this is what you're saying, Young Me. It's like, you know, like the human brain is trying to like always fill in its gaps of understanding by making these assumptions and by making like, you know, by just filling in all these things and someone that they don't know as they're trying to gauge them. It's like, I mean, everyone does this, and people should try not to, even though it's like what our brains have been trained to do through evolution. Like it's like we gotta. What's nice. What I hope to get to is to get to a place where, and I think I'm trying this consciously in the world. I meet someone and I make no assumptions about like where they come from. Who I'm not. I don't mean for this to like be virtue signaling. I'm just saying like I don't know. Like I don't know what kind of day you've gone through. I don't know what kind of. I don't know like what your life is like day to day, and therefore it's like that's like a great place to like. It's just like blank slate. Let's just like build from the time, and then you go from there, and then you infer from there. But to like come in guns blazing, like I bet this chick loves talking about blowjizz. Let me bring up how many times I've gotten my dick sucked.
Probably
it's
not
like
helpful that I'm doing this in the background.
No,
that's it. That's really a good point, Bowen. Because when I meet people, I feel like I'm like that too. I'm like a total blank slate, and I like try very hard not to think anything of them too.
I'll just be honest. There was one guy who I love on OnlyFans, who's this like great fixture in the community, but Asian guy who I'm like, oh my god, he's just so gorgeous. And then like we started following each other, and then we started chatting. But the entire time I was like, I cannot assume that he's like approaching me in like a solicitous way.
Right.
And then it was only after a certain point that we were like very clear about what the other person where the other person was coming from in the conversation, that I was like, oh, see, this is great, and then we were both like, oh yeah, and we're both just chill people, and like, of course, and like, of course, like that is like him interacting with me has nothing to do with his OnlyFans presence. It's just like him, like another queer Asian dude, just wanting to like connect with me and just talking about, you know, that. I mean, and it did end up getting a little flirty, I will say, which I'm like really like. I'm not gonna like act on it too much, but I'm just like, oh, that's cute. I got to like flirt with this cute boy, and like I got excited the way that I would be excited to flirt with anybody that I was attracted to. But that's it. You know?
Right.
I think that's a good lesson. You know, if you do like somebody online for their online presence, you know, whether it's like OnlyFans or whatever they're doing, especially if it's very obviously like a performance, I feel like for me, which, you know, it's very obviously not just me. This is me. Do you know what I mean? Like, totally. I don't know. Like, I think that's just like a good way to think about it. Like, compartmentalize it. Anyway, how are you feeling, Bowen?
I'm feeling. I was telling you guys before we hit record. I'm just overwhelmed, which is not an emotion, I guess, but it's a state of mind. But it's like it's Pride Week, and in New York, it's always like such a ceremonious thing where everyone has to like, you know, they don't have to, but it does feel like it's compulsory for a lot of people, a lot of friends that I know who kind of like relate to this, where it's like you gotta like show up and show out, and like, you know, especially this year, like see and be seen, and it's obviously built around all these other wonderful things like the Queer Liberation March, and a lot of great spaces for like queer people to just gather like after a year of just being so apart from each other. But I'm just overwhelmed with like I just moved into this place. It's still a mess. I have a broken mirror downstairs that I have to like clean the glass up. Like, there's like bits of glass on my floor everywhere, and I'm like, oh god, and I'm like watching where I step, and it's just like I'm on edge. And so I have to like host. I have to like host a thing on Saturday. I have to like host a house party, and I'm like, why did I agree to this? No one forced me to.
And you just moved in.
And I moved in in like April, but I haven't had time to like make anything, like to make a home since like a month ago. And like even I've been out of town for like a few days or a week and change, and I'm just like, oh God, like there's, what am I doing? Like this just feels so Sisyphean. Anyway, I'm just overwhelmed.
Oh my God. Well, you are truly one of the busiest people.
But I told you, I'm not
planet.
even busy. I'm busy with chores, Brian.
Right.
It's
like boring
No.
busy. It's not like
Yeah.
fun, creative.
That's how I know
busy.
That's how I know you're busy is because you moved into that place a few months ago and there's still broken glass on the floor.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, if there's any work that I don't want to do, I'm always looking up for distraction of like, I guess I'll vacuum my room for the third time in this hour.
I wish I had that instinct.
You're busy. Well, Youngmi and I are so excited that you made the time, despite all the chaos, to speak to us on the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Well, Bowen, we're gonna hit you with our questions, and should we get into it, Youngmi?
Yeah, I'm ready. I'm excited. Sorry.
I'm so excited. All right, so this is kind of related to just you being the busiest person on planet Earth, maybe second to. But you're a celebrity, full stop. You're in the top echelon of celebrity in America, and we're wondering, as an Asian American, what does it feel like? And I know it makes you want to cringe in your seat.
You're like shaking your head. You're
like
so
covering my
famous.
eye. No.
What's it like being so famous?
No. I can't even get into I don't know, a fun restaurant.
This is truly the
What?
worst question to be asked by someone who just said, "I'm so overwhelmed."
No.
And scatterbrained.
Wait, what do you mean you can't even get into a fun restaurant? That's not true.
I'm just saying, I'm not at I wouldn't be able to call up a restaurant and be like, "Hi, this is." I couldn't. I would have to hire an assistant, and for that to happen, I would have to make a certain amount of money in order to pay an assistant, whatever. Anyway, it's really fortuitous, and I'm very lucky, and there's no logic or reasoning behind it. There's nothing that exceptional about who I am as a person. It just so happens that I was at the right place at the right time with just the right amount of skills in order to do a job, audition for a job for a year, and to have people be like, we're not sure about him, and then get hired as a writer on the show SNL, and then be moved on to the cast after I had to prove myself as a writer for a season. Not prove myself, but just have to earn an understanding of how the show worked. And so I feel like I've been it's been a very not incremental, but it's a very gradual thing over several years where I've been okay, I guess I'm ready to do this thing but slightly different, and do this thing but slightly different over enough time where it feels like all of a sudden I feel overwhelmed, and I'm not even able to get my apartment together. But that's all it is. It's just you're kind of it's a slow motion throw into this new pool, it's and then I blink, and 3 years ago I was just pounding the pavement with trying to find any comedy job, and then I blink, and then I open my eyes, and then it's I'm texting Nora Aquafina and BD Wong, and we're buddies, and I'm oh my God, I never imagined that I would have develop these relationships with these people, who have some shared understanding of what it's like to be sort of, I don't know,
right.
Totally.
I want to give you I'm going to give you a compliment, which I know, I'm sorry everyone's uncomfortable if you're Asian receiving compliments. So what I'm hearing is I think everyone that's doing comedy or whatever it is, pursuing a career in something, even if it's not creative, when you're doing it, it's it feels very, I think this is what you're saying, it just feels like you have your head down and you're just working towards it, and incrementally you get ahead, and then you realize looking back, oh, this happened. But I think the one thing that somebody that's just watching comedy and stuff, that somebody like you doesn't realize is you're like exceptionally funny, and I feel like sometimes we're all just like doing comedy and like other people can see like, oh, Bowen's hilarious, and obviously in this amount of time you've come here. Do you know what I mean? And I just say that because I feel like a lot of times people who are exceptional don't see that because they're like, you know what I mean? Like they don't see it from the outside.
That's really nice. But I tend to think that like everyone is exceptional.
Well, that's my subjective.
And so therefore there are no
yeah.
exceptions. Yeah. Oh,
right.
Well, thank you, Young Me.
I'm like subjectively, yeah.
Oh, thank you. I just like I'm just like whenever I like discover something like a new person or something, I'm like, oh my God, this is the best thing I've ever. I'm so hyperbolic with it. I'm like, this is the best thing I've ever seen. And then I tend to really go quickly into like I said, like a place where I find everyone exceptional and everything exceptional, and so therefore nothing is, and so that just defeats the whole purpose of like, again, like creating some generalized average of like, oh, this is what most comedians do, or this is what most Asian performers do. And I don't think it's like, I feel like that's always a trap that I fall into where I go, oh wait, why did I think that like all Asian comedians talk about their parents? That's every comedian. And, you know, it's like the filing system gets all fucked up all the time. And I'm like, oh, that was wrong. Like that was like, but again, this is just the thing that your brain does, is like, it just tries to like neatly put a tab on things and put them in the right cabinet. And I'm like, that's right. That's what you have to like unlearn almost constantly.
Yeah.
And I have to unlearn that within myself, because I feel like I will just absorb what other people say.
That's an interesting observation that you just pointed out, of how like you're making these pattern recognition and presumptions of like the status of being an Asian comedian and having to unlearn these misguided assumptions just because of this signifier, this identifier of you being an Asian comedian. Yeah, I do that constantly. And I guess, have you noticed that, because from my perspective, you've done this gracefully, and it seems that it doesn't seem forced. You're very comfortable in speaking on behalf of the Asian American experience. But I do feel that when I see Asian American public figures, they will point out how there is like an extra weight to it all, because the representation is so sparse, and it almost feels like you're obligated to speak on behalf of the experience, even though we're not a monolith. And there's just so much nuance that exists within all of it. But have you felt that personally? And is it, I mean, if anything, is it something that you maybe perhaps enjoy doing? I don't know. It's a really good question. I am still in the process, and I think a lot of people are in the process of triangulating where they are against acknowledging the pressure, and then trying to work outside of it, and trying to ignore it, and trying to like transcend the pressure. And it's like, I'm trying. I think me and a lot of other people are trying to find, or are seeing where we land in the middle. We're figuring out where we land in the middle, where it's like, because it would be kind of unhinged for anyone to be like, I don't feel the pressure at all. No, like it's not honest for them to say that, but it's also like just as kind of, it's just as much of a disservice to be like, I must live up to the pressure constantly. Like that is not going to be sustainable for anybody. So I don't know. I feel like the only thing that I feel is that is a consequence of like where Asians are in terms of representation, is that things will be construed in a way that like will easily leave room for like bad faith, or for like people to assume that your intentions are bad. And I've been like, it's weird to like, it's not weird, it's actually very like enlightening, but like I've done a couple things where like I've heard from like enough Asian people watching who are not even like interested in me at all, who don't care for me, which is great, but they're like,
I've had people be like, oh, what you've done in some instances is be like an Asian Uncle Tom. You've done the yellow face in a way that is like damaging. And I'm like, I don't think that's absolutely true. I don't think that's completely true. I don't think that's completely false. And I'm like, but this is, I feel like where we are right now is that people are very vigilant about what the portrayals are now. And it's like, and they will again, like project a thing onto what you're doing that like you hadn't considered, which is not to say that like you were absolved from responsibility, but it's like, it just means that like you have to leave room and you have to be okay with people misunderstanding you in a way and kind of attaching ill intention onto what you're doing. And I'm like,
right.
But then I have to sit with that. And as an individual, I don't think this is an individual thing that falls on me to be like, it's on me to like carry something or change something or push something forward. It's a collectivist thing, obviously. But when I sit with it, I have to go, okay, I mean, how much of this is true? How much of this is false? And then the stuff that I've been told like is very like, has a note of anti-Asianness to it. I go, okay, well then I'm never going to do that again. I will try. Then like, fine. Like that's a great challenge for me actually, is to not have to like lean on race. Not that it's ever a crutch, not that it's ever a thing that people shouldn't put their weight on, but I'm just like, then I can try to work out. I'm in a position to try and do that and see how it goes. And if it fails, then it fails.
You know, I'm a huge fan of your work, and when it comes to rising to the occasion of having to like speaking out about your experiences of being an Asian American, the first thing that I always do is I'll go to your Instagram stories and be like, yep, like what you just said, whatever was floating in my mind, but said it 10,000 times better. So I am just going to share this Instagram story, and this is fantastic. Thank you for saying what you did. But to your point, I think you've proven yourself on Saturday Night Live, where I feel like when people describe Bowen Yang, it's not Asian comedian. It's just, you are a tremendous comedian. And it's interesting to me how, I don't know, it's just great seeing your creative process of like, yes, there is, as a POC and as a comedian, there is that addition, like you do want to challenge yourself and be like, you know what, I don't want to lean on race. I want to create something entirely new. And I think you do that time and time again on the show, where the iceberg character on Weekend Update, truly no one else could do that on the show, and it's what makes it
thought it was racist.
Entirely you.
Yummy thought it was racist. It was being.
I'm just saying.
He had white face. He had white face on.
A little. You threw us under the bus with that one.
Did.
I'm just kidding.
I'm setting us back.
No, just to like bounce off. You really set us back with iceberg. Just to back to 1917. Like, just to like bounce off what Brian's saying, I think your answer was really interesting, because I think that was a really very authentic and real answer. You know, you're just like letting it kind of like flow through. You're not trying to be like, I'm the Asian comedian, and you're not pretending that doesn't exist either. And also, I really like the second part of your answer, where you're like, if there are people that have an issue with your work, I really like how you said, then I'm gonna like sit with that and like learn from that. And I think that's like so like great that you said that, because so many comedians can't do that.
But it's,
you know?
We have to, this is also like is such a dumb nuanced thing that I think I am trying to find, is that like, if I like succumb to every bit of feedback that comes my way, then like I will be nothing. And I will have nothing to stand on that's like my own sort of sacred sort of point of view as a comedian. But then if I just reject all of it, then I'm also just an asshole, you know, like
it's a balance.
And I'll never grow and whatever. I'll like, if I'm not like a sponge for things. And so, you know, it's a filtration system. You just sort of like, everything is coming in, and then you just kind of have to like, I don't know, like Quicksilver and X-Men or something. You just have to like sort of like stop time and just sort of like organize things, and then see what like the interstitial spaces to like move through it, and then take what you want. And so Yeah, it's really fucking weird. It's really
So
weird.
No.
Speaking of, I know we were talking about Aquafina
Mm-hmm.
and BD
BD
Wong.
Yeah.
I have a theory, and Brian believes my theory that there is an Asian Illuminati.
Okay.
Including Aquafina, Stephen Yun, Henry Golding, Ali Wong. You, Constance Wu, I know it's real. I just want to ask,
Is it
how
real?
do we get in? Brian and I want in. We're both fire
You're
signs.
in.
We want to do no work and get all of the benefit.
Yes.
I don't want to read one script. I just want to party with you and the Asian Illuminati.
Wait,
Tell me it's real.
You're describing me. I like never want to do work. I have like 4 things I have to read this week, and I'm like, I don't want to do any of it.
Me neither.
You're in. There is no. There is no. Sorry to use this word that is a bit, at this point, like meme to death, but like there is no gatekeeping when it comes to this. The Asian Illuminati is like everyone like going to some like place in K-Town with their private room to like sing karaoke. Like that was like the rap party for Nora for the first season of Nora from Queens. Is like Nora just like got like a karaoke room in K-Town where people could like smoke cigarettes if they wanted to or whatever the fuck. But that's all. It's still like embedded in Asianness though. Do you know what I mean? It's like it's still like the whatever like closed tight circle of like Asian people might seem like, it still like exists in a way that is familiar to all Asian people.
Right,
like there's
right.
nothing that like esoteric or like different about it. It's just like it's like
A smoking permitted private.
That is the
room
only difference.
That's what I
karaokeing in
do. That's
K-Town.
what I do on
I've already-
Saturdays.
It
I go
makes
to the,
me
I
want
smoke
to be a part
cigarettes
of
at
it
the
even
karaoke.
more, young me.
I mean,
I
all
was
you
like
have to,
next.
Oh my
you have to like
god.
hand like $100 bill. You have to hand like one Ben Franklin to the manager, like the floor manager of the space,
And
then you're
one
fine.
Ben Frank, and then like at 1 a.m. like Russian
Wow.
models just show up to your room.
Yeah,
Has that ever
I
happened to
know.
you?
Not me, but
Okay.
that sounds about right.
How I feel like that night when you were like rapping for Nora, in the next room it was like me and Brian like doing the same thing by ourselves. Like no, it's our own little Illuminati.
That's beautiful.
I think. Wow.
That's what it is.
Well-
That's like it's like the proximity is like not it's all very close. It's like
Yeah.
we all like there's like no matter who you are as an Asian person, there's like, and this is probably true for a lot of other ethnicities. It's like there is some like baseline shared experience, whatever, blah blah blah. I'm not saying anything
Yeah.
new.
Right.
I do feel
Wow.
like if there's
This
like
is
an
how I know
Asian
it's
person.
really real.
What?
It's not
Oh.
real. It's not. But I'm also telling you, I'm going along with the
Bowen-
bit, but it's not real.
It's like Fight Club. You
It's-
know?
yeah,
It's
you
like,
don't talk about it.
First part of Asian Illuminati is don't talk
There
about
is
Asian
okay.
Illuminati.
I can reveal one thing. So, are you guys familiar with Gold House? They're this media company.
Yes.
Okay, so Gold House, it's run by this guy named Bing Chen. He is the one who knows. He is the great connector with every Asian person.
That has always been my theory. Is that he is
it's him.
apex of Asian Illuminati.
He is like the Keith Raniere, like if it's a cult structure, you know what I'm saying? Like so Bing has a lot of Asian men on one group chat.
Okay.
And
I need in on
you
this.
do need in, Brian, and it is unfortunately like fucking like delineated by gender. I'm so sorry, young me. It's terrible. It's cis men only. Sorry, cis male pride. It's Pride Month, but it's so it's a bunch of people, but it's not even that juicy. It's like everyone just like wishing each other a happy birthday when it's someone's birthday, like. Oh, like it's Apollo Ono's birthday. Everyone say happy birthday, Apollo. And it's like very wholesome.
Wow.
Apollo Ono was on it?
was
Apollo
in this
Ono
chat?
is on it.
Holy
So
fuck.
the Asian Illuminati is just one group chat where everyone wishes each other happy birthday.
Isn't that
And it's
so
all
boring?
cis men.
And it's all cis men. I'm sure
I wish I didn't know.
I'm sure the women in every other gender have their own group chat that we don't
Yes.
know about and we're not privy to, and that's fine. That's fine.
Well, young me, I'm gonna let you know that I got a DM the other day from a casting office, and they were like, "We're casting for a Netflix reality show, and we came across your podcast page, Brian." And you know what? Now that I know this group chat exists, I figured out my strategy.
Okay.
It's do this reality
Yeah.
show.
Yes.
Follow on the coattails of Kevin Kreider of Bling Empire.
Yes.
There needs to be more Asian himbo
Brian, you are like, I think you have Kevin B. I think you are like 10 times hotter and easier to talk to. I'm sorry to say. No shade to Kevin.
Wow.
But like Kevin and I couldn't have a conversation more than like 5 minutes, and we both know that. I've only been on a Zoom with him because we did a reading of a Bling Empire episode one time, and
I watched that and I saw Joel's wonderful.
Joel was a wonderful Kevin.
Interpretation of Kevin.
Joel was such a good Kevin. But Brian gives me like King Himbo vibes, but you're not even full Himbo because you're not stupid.
I always tell Brian, I always teeter between like himbo and like
he's just a hottie. He's just like a hot dude.
Oh wow,
just hot and not.
Should we
dumb.
move on to the next question?
Hot, Brian. God. Sorry,
Brian, you're in. So you're in. So Brian's in the Asian Illuminati. I'm still not. That's okay.
You will be though, young me. I gotta look into the equivalents for like every other gender, and then we'll put you there. Yeah.
That one sounds more fun anyway.
Exactly. It's not even that fun in the guy one. It's just happy birthday.
Yeah, it seems
well, woo. Bowen, thanks for giving us a little peek into the Illuminati.
Behind the curtain.
Shouts out to Gold.
Of course.
Shouts out to Goldhouse for doing the work. And
shout out to Gold. But the beautiful thing about Goldhouse is it's not exclusionary. It's like people in media, but it's also like business owners, and then it's like activists. Yeah. It's like nice. Every person there's room for everybody.
Yeah, that's how I saw Parasite in New York was through Goldhouse.
Oh, so you did the
Goldhouse? Huge fan.
Great, amazing.
Yeah. Another question we wanted to ask you, Bowen, is that, at this stage in your career, do you still experience pushback on some of your ideas for, being too quote unquote Asian or, under the guise of niche or any sort of other coded language like that? Right now I'm in like a decent place because I've realized working. I mean, like, the place that I would imagine encountering it the most would be, and what people might assume where they assume that I encounter the most is some place like SNL, where it's like this institutional thing, and it has to like adhere to like all these different values or whatever, and it has to like appeal to like whoever buys ad space, like whoever it's like, oh, they're advertising, like it's a broadcast TV network, like. For better or for worse, it means that the audience is huge, but that also it has to like we have to like change brands on things in order to like not offend people who like pay for the commercials during the shows. It's like I've totally haven't considered the branded content. And like, look, there's no escaping it. I mean, there is escaping it, but like I happen to work at a place where it's like you gotta make sure everyone's happy, like on that side, on the business side of things. But for me, this has nothing to do with nicheness, but it has everything to do with like me thinking that like I have to like me thinking for like the past 2 seasons of being a cast member, or the full 3 seasons of me working there, where I've been like, oh God, I couldn't do this, I couldn't do that. I'm the one who self-censors and self-edits, because the way SNL works is that it's a bottom-up place in terms of the creative process and not a top-down thing. And by that I mean it's not like you don't have producers knocking on your door being like, you have to write this kind of sketch. Or that sketch is not a good idea. Like, you never have someone... And they're very conscious about letting you run wild with an idea that doesn't sound like it'll make any sense, but go for it. I mean, like, anytime they onboard, like, a new writer or a new cast member, they one of the producers will sit you down and be like, write whatever you want to write, because even if we tell you that it's a weird idea, when someone pitched to us Dick in a Box, or when someone pitched to us, like, Kristen Wiig with the baby doll hands, it's like all those pitches, everyone was like, maybe not. I mean, Iceberg was like that. Sarah Lee was like that. Like, a bunch of sketches that I've worked on have been like that, where like the producers are like, you have to pitch them you have to pitch the ideas to one producer every Tuesday before you start writing. Right. And they have to give you the green light to write. But they almost never say, that's a bad idea, don't write it. They almost always say, go for it, try it out. So there's a Final Fantasy sketch. There's absolutely a Final Fantasy sketch somewhere. There's I'm saying, like, there's like nothing is ruled out, because like, I'll finish the thought with like Iceberg and with all these sketches that I've written. Like,
no one understood it until it was in front of an audience. You know what I'm saying? Like, no one internally understood it until it was in front of an audience. And so, anyway, this is to say that it's bottom up, so that it's like it really starts with the writers and the cast members, and it's kind of like a nice like it has respect for the craft, it has respect for the process, it has respect for like the laborers of the show in terms of the structure of the show. It's like you have like the middle management class, which is like the producers, then you have like the capitalist class, which is like Lorne Michaels, but then you have like the working class at SNL is like the writers and the writers and the cast members and like the people who build the sets.
The working class.
But it's like in terms of like, you know, like that Marxist whatever. Anyway.
The comrades.
However, Bowen, I don't think I've ever gone into detail of this on the podcast. I think back in 2014, I interned at SNL for a season, and every Saturday for a few hours, my job was just to follow Colin Jost around, like just to follow him because apparently he would disappear during critical moments.
Yes, Colin,
what class would that be? Is that still working class?
Colin is like I mean, there's no such thing in this theory, but like Colin is like Colin is the fact that he's the one who's actually like putting like who's like typing and like coming up with the ideas most of the time. It's like that just means that he's like. But like the fact that you had to like follow him around and make sure he was like in the building.
What about the intern that's following Colin?
We're working class.
15 feet away.
Working class. You are.
Okay, great.
If you're working for the working class, then you're considered then technically you're working class.
Right. So if you're a fan of season 40, you're
wow. Thank you, Brian, for your service, for your tireless service. But,
I could tell that was a good one. That was a good season. You could really tell Brian was really following.
Oh yeah.
Just around.
Really following from a comfortable 15 feet away, and was very uncomfortable for both parties involved.
He thought this Asian himbo. I'm sorry, this himbo is.
Do you think really Brian was like the hot intern that everyone was like had a crush on? They're like, there's that hot intern, Brian.
Not sorry to objectify you, Brian. How tall are you?
No, do it. He loves being objective. He's 6'1", hot height.
I'm 6'1".
You're 6'1". God damn
it. Isn't that hot height?
It's a really good height. Not to be like heightist or whatever, or like
Bowen.
or height or short phobic, but I'm like. Whatever.
Bowen, do you know how many times a frickin' day somebody, I don't know why, DMs me and says Brian is so hot, and I'm like, why are you DMing me?
I know.
Brian.
DM him. I know people do that.
Like they want me to tell him.
I have that with my podcast co-host where people will DM me that Matt is so hot, and then people will DM Matt that I'm so hot, and I'm like, just stop it. Skip the middle.
Nobody DMs Brian that I'm hot. Nobody.
He's not telling
just
you.
One way.
Yes, they do.
Yes, they do.
I tell you all the time.
When?
And it just bounces off of you.
And then I'm like, I'm so alone. No one will ever love me. And then I cry.
No.
Wait, can I just ask you, like, because you were saying in the beginning of your answer that people expect that to come from SNL, but you're saying it comes from somewhere else, or no?
It doesn't.
Like people are. Yeah.
It doesn't. I've been lucky so far, like knock on wood, that like I haven't gotten too much pushback in like such an aggressive sense, like, and like the ideas that I want to work on, I have been able to find like Asian people who like understand what like I'm trying to do, and like that's like the big change.
Right.
Is like wait. It's like we're all finding each other now in ways, and we're all like connected to each other now more easily than we were before. Where like I was talking to Rosalind Chow about this, and she was like, whatever. She was like saying like how great things are now, but she was also saying how back in the day, like especially when Joy Luck Club came out, she was like, a lot of the reason why that wasn't a great experience was because of, and this is not to like vilify anybody like in the community, but it's like she was saying like the toughest part of Joy Luck Club coming out was getting blowback from Asian people, or even like on set, even on set or on different projects, it would be like other Asian actors or people in the industry who would like not be that supportive of them. Or of each other, or like because it was like a scarcity mentality where it was like there's only a certain number of things, that a certain number of jobs that go out to people, and I think for the most part we've gone away from that, and I think like Joel Kim Booster and I, like there could have easily been like the tiniest little butterfly effect. One thing could have been different. Like I could have like, you know, like bought the wrong coffee order like one day before I met him. And then we could have easily decided to like not to like be in competition with each other and like not be friends and like not be, you know, and like I don't know, like that slowly changed. And so anyway, this is all to say that like I have not experienced pushback in terms of nicheness because I feel like I've like found the right people, or that like if I am getting that pushback, I can be like, okay, well then I don't want to do it this way anyway, and we can all just find someone else, you know. Like I hope that I have that kind of like flexibility moving forward. I know that won't always be the case, but for now it's okay. For now it's good.
That's like so like great to hear. It feels like it's really hopeful to hear. It's like look at us, Asian, the most famous Asian comedian in America, and you have like this platform and you're not getting any pushback from Lorne Michaels or anything. He's just letting you do whatever you want.
It's not whatever I want gets to be done, but you have to like push it through the same process that everything else gets pushed through. Like it has to compete with every, like if I were to write a Final Fantasy sketch, it would have to, you know, it would have to be like, it would have to be producible and work on the same level that like any other sketch about, you know, going to like that takes place in like a living room. You know,
so I can't like pitch a bibimbap mukbang sketch.
I would love. I think that's also in the cards. I might. I wrote in my. I have this Trello. I have like lists of things, like for SNL. Sometimes when I'm like trying to think of ideas, and like one card just says mukbang, and I'm like, well, I don't know what to do with this, but it's been sitting there, and I'm like, I don't really know. Like it's a weekend update thing where like I just eat a bunch, and I don't know. But I
love mukbang.
I know I love mukbang too, but I'm like, what is like the SNL like way to like deliver that? I don't know yet. So we'll see.
One day you'll do it, and I believe in you, Bowen.
Thank you. Or one day someone else will do it. Let someone else do it too. Anyway.
Yeah.
Bowen, before we let you go, we'd like to leave you with this one last question that we like to ask all of our guests, and that is, what is something that you're proud of?
Oh my God. What is something that I'm proud of? I am proud of assembling various furniture in the last week. I'm proud. You know what I'm proud of? Living alone. Because living alone, like, because getting to that point means like, you know, oh great, like you're able to, you know, sustain your lifestyle in order to live alone. But it's also, after you do that, it's very hard to like do the laundry and like organize your things and like bring up groceries and like it's like living alone and being alone is like such a fucking crazy mind fuck, and yet it builds, like, as long as it doesn't like push you to be completely solitudinal all the time, it's like it's actually a good thing that helps you develop your sense of self that is not necessarily relative to other people. And I feel like, I'm not saying that you know, lockdown was great or anything, and I'm not one of those people that's like, I'm gonna stay in my cave. But I'm like, I just even before the pandemic happened, like living alone was like this big deal for me, and like it's like kind of like it's gone through different seasons as like time has gone on. But like lately I've gotten to a place where I'm like, because I just visited my sister who's married and has kids, and my mom is there to help her out, and I'm like, and I was like, aren't you tired? And she was like, no, I have people around, and like it's nice, and like they can like, and like someone can, like my husband can go to the grocery store and all that. And I'm like, oh right, I don't have that. I think this is exhausting to her because I think of this purely in terms of myself, which is whatever, but I'm like, that would exhaust me. And I'm like, oh, that's why I'm tired most of the time, is because I'm like living alone and I'm relatively happy about it. I'm proud of that. Anyway.
That's amazing. Now, my follow-up question is, did you text the cis male Illuminati group chat, hey, can anyone help me move?
No,
Apollo.
I did not. Apollo, help me.
What are they even for if they're not going to help you move?
It's literally to be like... I don't want to be in
anymore.
I know. It's literally, what is it? It's just people being like, hey, like...
Hey, happy birthday, Bowen.
Or it's like,
Anton Ono, get your ass over here.
And help me
this
lift
furniture.
this couch up the stairs
Clean
off
this
my
glass.
Put those thighs to work, my dude.
Oh my god, absolutely. It's
my
like it's truly just like people being like, "Hey, does anyone know any like an Asian shirt printer, silk screener?" It's like very nice little like it's like, a little next door forum or something where everyone's just like, "Does anyone know a good person to do this?" Anyway, that's it. But no, I have not texted them.
Well, Bowen, I'm so excited that we got to talk to you, and this was so much fun. This was like so interesting. I thought all of your answers were so interesting, and I feel like I learned a lot.
Oh, well, thank you for having me. And I feel like I always learn a lot just about, I don't know, about us as a little corner of, entertainment or the industry or just Asian people trying to figure shit out. So this has been very fun.
Oh, thank you. And for our listeners, where can they find you and your work?
They can find SNL on Saturdays, although we're on hiatus for the summer. And then Nora from Queens season 2 is coming soon. We can't announce the date just yet, but that'll be out soon on Comedy Central and HBO Max. And then my Instagram is Faye Dunaway, like the actress's name, and then that's it.
Amazing. And what about you, Youngmi?
You can find me at YMMayor on Instagram and Twitter, and then my TikTok is YoungMeMayor. And how about you, Brian?
You guys can find me on socials at It's Brian Park, and be sure to follow our podcast on social media at Feeling Asian Podcast, and check out our YouTube channel, Feeling Asian Podcast. And a quick shout out to our sound engineer, Sarah Pack. If you need an audio engineer for your creative projects, please hit her up on Instagram at im_PAKT. That's at impact. And I think that's it, guys.
Thanks,
Bowen.
Bye,
Thank
guys.
you. Bye.
Bye.